Hi, I'm Jenny Pace, and you're listening to the Better Business Podcast. This is the place for makers, solopreneurs, and product-based business owners to get tips, advice, and inspiration on running their business that's profitable, that's fun, and that's kind of what you want to be doing with your life. I can't wait to share my tips and ideas, to share book reviews, and to help you run a better business for life. Hello, I am really excited to introduce a really special part of the podcast today, and that is the Better Business Book Club. I really love books, no surprises there, and I recommend them all the time to clients and members of my Better Business Collective, and I've even been known to send books as gifts to new clients as part of onboarding. I really love sharing ideas through books. I love that we can go back to the books that are meaningful to us over and over again and explore different ways of sharing ideas, the ideas that actually help us move forward in our businesses and our lives. So when I was starting the podcast, I knew that I wanted to share all of these books, the ones that I've recommended over and over again. It's been really interesting to see the themes over the years of things that are impactful and just things that I find myself sending people links to all the time. So these books have also had a really big impact on my own business and life. So I'm going to be sharing business books, and a bit like today's business book, there are also going to be books that are more about personal development, self-awareness, self-knowledge, because these are the things that impact our confidence. There are so many things I see that are less about business strategy or marketing strategy or the finer details of those things, and much more about our energy, our understanding, the frameworks of our thinking, and our confidence. As I was mentioning a couple of episodes ago when we talked about marketing energy and the throat chakra. If you haven't listened to that episode yet, I recommend it. I've had so many amazing responses, including one of my collective members who was like, I just had like 3 orders come in when I was listening to it. So I was like, yes, this is the thing. It's the energy. So without further ado, let's dive into the first Better Business Book Club book, is The Big Leap by Hendricks. Here's a little backstory about my experience with this book. It was recommended to me several years ago while I was building my business and working on a new project, and just kind of I was growing my business, but I wasn't super happy and I wasn't necessarily seeing the results that I had expected. So I had asked in a group that I'm part of if anyone had any recommendations, and they recommended this book, The Big Leap. I got it from the library. In fact, I think I looked it up on the library system and I had to order it and wait for it to be available. So then by the time it was available, it sat on my desk for a while. I renewed it several times and I really resisted reading it. I just couldn't open it, or I opened the first page and just when you sometimes do that and you just can't really take in anything, that any of the words. And when I look back, I can see where I was in that time period. I can see how much potential I had, how much I really needed a big leap, but I just didn't think I was ready for it. And as I talk through this book, you're going to notice what was going on. It was exactly what I needed to read, and yet I could not do it. So I actually read this book when I was pregnant in 2018 and maybe 2019, around that time. And I've recommended it. I've read it several times, maybe 3 times, and I dip in and out of it when I need a little refresher. And I've recommended it dozens of times to clients who are really bumping up against a glass ceiling, who just can't get out of under-earning perhaps, or they always seem to find a reason not to move forward with what they really want. Quite often when I work with clients one-on-one or on a retreat, or even in my membership group, we uncover the idea, the big dream, the big vision of what they really want. Sometimes it's a little hesitant whisper, and sometimes it's a light bulb moment shout from the rooftops. And then it can take a while. They're afraid to start something new or let go of old income streams and focus on the new thing. They stay really comfy in what they know. But they're frustrated. They want to move forward on this big vision. They've seen it really clearly. They've got excited about it. But for whatever reason, it falls to the bottom of the list all the time. And some of this is part of the process of being human, of working on our businesses, of working on ourselves. I really believe and see that the way we think about ourselves, our confidence, our self-esteem, our self-belief is really linked to our business success a lot of the time. The Big Leap, this book that I'm going to talk about today, is exactly for those moments. It can really accelerate that process of wrangling with the things we're bumping up against. So if that sounds like you, if you feel like you're kind of bumping up against stuff and you've had a certain amount of success but you can't seem to really get beyond it or get to the next step, or maybe you are at the beginning of your business journey and you have this big idea and this big vision and you just are looking for ways to get it started and looking for ways to commit to it, this book is really great for that. So I'm going to talk through some of the key ideas. I've got my copy in my hands right here, so I'm going to also read a couple of quotes and we're going to dive in. So the first key idea, there are two big ones in this book. The first is about upper limit problems. This is the idea that we all have an internal thermostat for success, for how much love we can receive, for how much we can feel good. We have this internal thermostat, and it was set probably in early childhood. We subconsciously sabotage ourselves from experiencing more than that thermostat allows. That our tolerance for growth and success and happiness and joy and connection is actually limited in our subconscious by usually our childhood experiences. So when I read this, having avoided this book for months, if not years maybe, I felt like a lot of things clicked into place. I could see that a lot of things, not necessarily about my beliefs in business, but about my beliefs in life, were getting in the way. And they were internal. And there was stuff that I still needed to do, still could do, to reclaim my power, make sure that I was in charge, and that I was making good choices. When I started reading this book, I was really in love with my comfort zone. I was really committed to it, but it wasn't serving me. And I was really ready to learn more. And this idea of upper limit problems made me see what I could do to change it, what made me see the way through, the different paths that I could take, the things that I could still work on to get serious and to make a big leap forward. So in chapter 1 of this book, Hendricks talks about the one problem and how to solve it. And his concept of the one problem is the upper limit problem. I'm going to read a little bit about what he writes. He says, there is an even bigger reason you might feel some resistance about transcending your upper limit problem. Speaking personally, I found my biggest resistance was the fear of owning my full potential. As I explored this fear, I realised that making such a big commitment put everything on the line. It eliminated any excuse I'd ever allowed myself for failing to achieve what I set out to do. In the past, I could always say, well, I failed, but I wasn't really trying hard. Maybe I'd have succeeded if I had really tried. Or I failed, but I might have succeeded if I hadn't got sick. But now, after making the commitment to going the distance, any excuse that crept into my mind somehow sounded hollow, even ridiculous. As if Columbus had sailed back to Europe and said, well, we didn't find land, but we might have if I hadn't got a nasty cold. Aside from the slightly questionable Columbus reference, I can't say that I'm pro-colonization. However, this sense of, well, I failed, but I wasn't really trying hard. Maybe I'd have succeeded if I'd really tried. That excuse had been running me. Is a big part of my upper limit problem. I enjoyed having that excuse, that I wasn't really putting everything on the line, that I knew that I had a fallback if I failed, to say, well, yeah, but I didn't really give it enough time. And if I had given it enough time, then it would have been successful. I didn't want would have been successful. I don't want would have been successful. I want actually good, actually successful, not earth-shattering, not I overcame all the odds and that kind of stuff. Like, I believe in defining success on my own terms and your success on your own terms, just FYI. But this idea of the upper limit problem being part of my thinking, my framework, was eye-opening. So let's skip ahead, and I'm going to ask you the questions that Gay Hendricks poses in the book. So there are 3 questions that he puts out at the beginning of the book. Question 1 is, am I willing to increase the amount of time every day that I feel good inside? Question 2 is, am I willing to increase the amount of time that my whole life goes well? Yes. Yes, I am. And question 3 is, am I willing to feel good and have my life go well all the time? He's like stretching out this capacity for feeling good. And he says in the book, when I use the phrase feel good, I'm talking about a natural inner sense of well-being that's not dependent on outside factors, such as what you've eaten or what you might be doing. It's important to begin with a willingness to feel good inside, because there's no sense enhancing other parts of your life at the expense of your inner well-being. I'd like you to spend more and more time every day enjoying an organic, deep feeling of body and mind wellness. That's what I'd like you to say yes to if you're so inclined. And honestly, this also spoke to my experience. When I read this book, I'd run, I think, maybe 5 or 6 of my retreat weekends, my business retreats, and this sense of feeling good, this kind of internal sense of well-being, always came up with my clients, with the people on the retreats. When we looked at their business and we looked at how they'd like to spend their time and how they'd like to feel in their business and what they'd like to be doing, this sense of wellness, this sense of feeling good always comes up. So I knew, and it has for me too, obviously, so I knew this was really powerful, and I know we want it, or we can get to the point where we know we want it. This book is so much about how to get there. And Gay Hendricks starts off with these willingness questions. And there's a 4th one that he asks, are you willing to take the big leap to your ultimate level of success in love, money, and creative contribution? Such great questions. And I love this willingness, because we have to reprogram our minds to be willing to increase that internal thermostat. And he talks about saying yes to these questions is the first and the hardest step, because of that quote that I read about that kind of, we have to get past this kind of comfort zone mindset. This, well, I failed, but I wasn't really trying hard. We have to move past that in order to get to where we really want to be, in order to make space for this sense of feeling good and taking responsibility for it as well. That then this sense of feeling good isn't about an external thing like, oh, I got sick. It's understanding that when we're working effectively and when we have the courage to work in the ways that benefit us, we reduce those challenges. So the book looks a lot at how to change our internal thermostat. And the book has a whole load of ways to notice our own stories that affect the inner thermostat and where it is. One of the things that Gay Hendricks talks about is that the upper limit problem isn't a problem to be solved, it's to be dissolved. It's wordplay, which I am totally here for, but it was also like, oh, this isn't a problem to like fix. I have to just release these beliefs, these upper limit problems. I don't have to find a different box to put them in and tidy them up. This is something that completely needs to dissolve in my thinking. So chapter 3 in the book has lots of ways to help you spot your own upper limit problems and how they show up in your everyday life. Some of them include worry, criticism and blame, squabbling, deflecting, compliments. All these habits that we can kind of slip into are often your upper limit problem, waving a flag and getting in the way. I would also add that undercharging and undervaluing yourself as a business owner is one of the things that it's kind of a symptom of having these upper limit problems. So that's the first concept in the book, is these upper limit problems. And truthfully, they are probably, I think about the other one too, but I think about them more or less every day for myself. Like, where am I getting in my own way? This is in one of the stories he tells in the book, one of the clients that he worked with, the questions they come back to are, how much love and abundance am I willing to allow? Again, we've got that willingness. And then, how am I getting in my own way? And like I said, I got in my own way so much when I first came across this book that I didn't read it for months, maybe years. That's how much I was really stuck in this very low thermostat for success. I was really getting in my own way by not even opening the book. But I still ask myself that. What's on my to-do list? If I've got a really long to-do list, which we can all have from time to time, that kind of unachievable to-do list, that busy work, let me look at that. Which of these things is me getting in my own way? What do I need to change to get out of my own way? Such good questions, and such a great way to think about, rather than, oh, I should do this. This is what I'm like supposed to be doing. Rather than thinking that way, it's, okay, what have I put on here that I think I should do that's just getting in my own way? Let's get rid of that. So there's a little nugget for you. So the second key part of the book is about the zone of genius. I love the zone of genius. So I love this idea of the zone of genius. And in fact, there are 4 zones of activity and work that are really clarifying, that can help us see where we're holding ourselves back in quite practical ways, to be honest. And definitely within the business context, I see this all the time. I just did this with my mastermind group, that we kind of listed out the things that they're working on in their business, that they do within their business in these 4 different areas. And for those of us who are one-woman bands, solopreneurs, or very, very small business teams, there are things that we do that aren't our zone of genius. And I think if we're going to grow our businesses, if we're going to make them sustainable, it's really important that we do review where our time lies in terms of these 4 zones. The 4 zones are, the first one is the zone of incompetence. And the zone of incompetence is stuff that you're like rubbish at. There are loads of people that are better at it than you and are quicker at it than you are. That's a really key thing. So maybe you are, and there are different ways that you can approach it, but maybe you are really terrible at photography and there are people that can do it way better and quicker than you can. Great thing to outsource. You might work at developing your photography skills if that feels fun and is going to support you. But ultimately, if it's not a strength for you, there are so many ways that you can outsource it. Ditto bookkeeping, ditto web design, lots of things that for many of us are things that we're not good at. And if you can pay someone to do it quicker than you would do it, that can be a really great thing for your business. So the first zone is the zone of incompetence. And these are like no-brainer things, hopefully, that you can outsource or delegate. The second one is the zone of competence. These are things that you can do. There might be other people that can do them. There are definitely people that can do them better than you, but you're kind of decent at them. Decent enough at them. The problem with these zone of competence things is like you're kind of scraping by in these things. For a lot of my clients, this might be things like product descriptions or graphic design, if they're doing bits and pieces for their website and stuff. Like, you're good enough at them, but again, they're not your specialism. They take you longer than they take other people. Again, these are like, let's just delegate them and leave them behind. The third one is the zone of excellence. And this is where we start tripping up on ourselves. This is where we really can get stuck in the zone of excellence. And this is what Hendricks in the book talks about a lot, is typically people who've they've got rid of things that are in their zone of incompetence and competence, and they're maybe functioning in the zone of excellence. These are things that you're good at and you're better than most people at them, but they're not your zone of genius, not your real passion. They're not the place where you love to hang out all the time and have endless energy for, or pretty close to endless energy for. We all need to recuperate from time to time, even if we're in our zone of genius. But for your zone of excellence, this is something that you're really good at it. You're better than most people at it. You can make a decent living at it. For me, this was product descriptions. I've written thousands and thousands of product descriptions in my career, in my life. And when I started my business, I was offering mentoring and coaching, and I was offering content, product descriptions for my clients. I'm really good at it. I can do it in my sleep. I don't love it. It's not the best thing that I can offer my clients. It's helpful, and it helped me to make a decent living, but it's definitely my zone of excellence, not my zone of genius. So this is the distinction that I think is really important. And I see this play out in my clients when they want to make a pivot, typically with their offerings. So, and also with production, maybe. So there's partly, I had a client who was really, really good at creating wedding stationery, but what she really wanted to do was illustration. She really wanted to be an illustrator. That was way more her zone of genius. And so it's that courage to start making that pivot and start believing that you can, breaking through these upper limit problems, these ideas that you have to stay in this one thing that's working, and start making the big leap into the zone of genius. That's why Gay Hendricks has paired these two big ideas together. To get to our zone of genius, we have to break through our upper limit problems. We have to find that courage and expand our vision and expand our thermostat for success. So I'm super excited about this idea, and there are some great questions in the book on how to find your zone of genius. So the first genius question is, what do I most love to do? I love it so much that I can do it for long stretches of time without getting tired or bored. Question 2 is, what work do I do that doesn't seem like work? I can do it all day long without ever feeling tired or bored. Yes, I hope that you whatever just came to your mind, make a note of it. Genius question number 3, in my work, what produces the highest ratio of abundance and satisfaction to amount of time spent? Even if I only do 10 seconds or a few minutes of it, an idea or a deeper connection may spring forth, and that leads to huge value. I love that question too. What is my unique ability? There's a special skill that I'm gifted with. This unique ability, fully realised and put to work, can provide enormous benefits to me and any organisation I serve, including your own, obviously. And it might not be an ability that is unique in the whole world. There might be millions of people who have it, but it's usually unique within your particular circle or work setting or industry or niche. So you might have discovered it already, but the book has some great ideas on how to find it. So I just highly recommend this book in general. There's a quote that I really love that I will share. At the end of the book, Gay Hendricks talks a bit about how these ideas link to entrepreneurship. And he says, the ultimate joy of being an entrepreneur is creating something that people find valuable, particularly if it hasn't existed before. That quote is something that I know my clients believe in, that is ultimately why so many of us have created our own businesses. We might have other reasons for doing it, loads of things that can kind of be the tripwire for us becoming an entrepreneur. But for many of us, it's trying to find that ultimate joy of creating something that people love, that they find valuable, that they find inspiring and useful, and especially if it hasn't existed before in this particular way. So I love that. That's one of the reasons I love this book, is it speaks to that. there is a caveat to this book, which is that Gay Hendricks is a white, straight, cisgender man from America. He is one of the least likely people on the planet to have external systemic limits placed upon him. So while I think this book is incredibly helpful and powerful, it also has that caveat to it, that he is not a marginalized demographic. So I think this book can help us to see the subconscious and systemic beliefs that we've internalized, the things we learn about the world as young humans, either within our family unit or within society at large. But having us see the subconscious and systemic beliefs that we've internalized can help us to change the system for ourselves and for others. However, if you're Black, if you're gay, if you're a woman, if you're disabled, if you have experienced abuse in your life, you might find that this book comes with a sense of there are a few chapters missing. You're going to need more than just deciding you're willing to feel good all of the time. So I share this book with that awareness, with that critical awareness that for Gay Hendricks, maybe all he needed to do was be more willing to feel good. And maybe that did change everything for him, and he didn't have to change the minds of society to allow him to create more success and wealth and power for himself. So I guess that's a key critique that I have of this book. And for me, it still has so many gems and so many great ways of thinking. I'm going to be sharing some more books that have a much more diverse life experience to draw upon. But I wanted to share this book first because it is the one that I have recommended so much for those mental blocks, those upper limit problems. I get something from this book every time I read it. It's going to be in my reading pile for a long time. I feel like I keep coming back to it as I explore my limits for as long as I'm growing, which I hope is always. So if you've been bumping around the same turnover level for a few years, or if you have got to where you wanted, but it isn't quite what you thought, or you keep then having issues not with your business, with other stuff, this is the book for you. It's a really great one. There is a link in the show notes to where you can purchase the book. You can buy this book and my other book recommendations at my bookshop.org shop, which supports independent bookstores. And you'll also, by purchasing through that link, you'll support this podcast through the commission that I receive. There's an audiobook version, which I believe is read by the author. That's always fun. I love it when authors read their own books. So if you have already read it, or if you read it based on this recommendation on the podcast, let me know. You can hop over to Instagram and find me at the Jenny Pace. I'd love to hear what you think. There's way more information and links to all these different ideas at thejennypace.com/podcast. I will be sharing another book club selection in June. And before then, I'll be bringing some really exciting news about Christmas planning. That's going to be happening at the end of May. You can also, if you want to, sign up for the waitlist of my membership, the Better Business Collective. It's going to be opening for new members at the end of May. So if you'd like to strengthen your business from the inside out, you can get on the waitlist for extra treats and bonuses when it opens towards the end of May. I hope this has been an interesting episode. I hope it's been good to think about these ideas, maybe start weeding out some of those limiting beliefs and upper limit problems from your brain and from your to-do list. I cannot wait to hear what you think, and I will look forward to speaking to you again next time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Better Business Podcast. I would love it if you could subscribe so that you don't miss any of the new episodes coming out. And of course, share with any creative business owners. I'll see you really soon. Take care. Bye.